The Admiral's voice cut through the hangar like a blade. "You're not needed here." Every conversation stopped. Boots froze mid-step. A single father stood at attention, his fingers trembling not from fear, but from a memory he had buried for years. What he said next would ripple through the Navy, change one child's future, and remind everyone in that steel-walled room what service really means. Stay until the end, because this wasn't just a test of rank. It was a test of heart. The morning fog clung to the naval base as if it didn't want to let go. Daniel Mercer adjusted the collar of his worn jacket, the fabric faded from years of salt air and sun. He was 38, broad-shouldered but tired in a way no gym could fix. His hair was trimmed regulation short, but his eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much and slept too little. Before dawn, he had tied his daughter's shoelaces, packed her lunch with a handwritten note, and promised, again, that he'd be home in time to read her favorite story. Daniel wasn't supposed to be here today. He was technically retired, medically discharged years earlier after an injury overseas. But when the Navy requested volunteers to help train a new class of recruits, specifically veterans with field experience, Daniel said yes without hesitation. Not because he needed the money. Not because he missed the uniform. But because the Navy had once saved his life, and because teaching young sailors felt like a way to honor those who never made it home. He stood among active duty officers who whispered behind his back. Single dad. Old injury. Why is he even here? Daniel heard it all, but he kept his posture straight. He had learned long ago that dignity didn't come from defending yourself, it came from standing firm. At the far end of the hangar, Navy Admiral Richard Hale entered with his entourage. Hale was legendary, brilliant, uncompromising, and known for testing people in ways that made or broke them. His uniform was immaculate, medals gleaming like a wall between him and everyone else. The Admiral's eyes swept the room and stopped on Daniel. "You," Hale said sharply. "Step forward." Daniel obeyed. Hale looked him up and down, lingering on the old service patch and the slight stiffness in Daniel's stance. "You're not on active duty. You're injured. And you're a distraction." He paused, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're not needed here." The words hit harder than any battlefield blow. In that instant, Daniel's mind didn't go to pride or anger. It went to his daughter, Emma, 7 years old, missing her front tooth, waving from the porch every morning as he drove away. It went to the nights he woke up from nightmares and still got up to pack lunches. It went to the friends he had buried and the promises he had made to their families. The room waited for him to break. Daniel took a breath. His voice was steady when he spoke. "Sir," he said, with respect, "my body may not be what it once was. But my experience is. I'm here because I know what it costs when someone isn't ready. I'm here because I've failed before, learned from it, and survived. And I'm here because my daughter deserves to grow up in a world protected by people who were trained by someone who understands the price." Silence swallowed the hangar. The Admiral's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. "That's a bold answer for someone who was just dismissed." Daniel nodded. "I know, sir. But leaving without saying it would be the real failure." Hale turned away without another word. Everyone assumed that was the end of Daniel Mercer's last chance to serve. They were wrong. That evening, Daniel picked Emma up from school. She ran into his arms, backpack bouncing, her laughter cutting through the heaviness he carried all day. At home, they ate dinner at the small kitchen table. She told him about spelling tests and playground drama. He listened like it mattered, because to him, it did. After she fell asleep, Daniel sat alone on the couch, staring at his phone. No message. No call. He told himself it was fine. He had tried. That had to be enough. The next morning, a black car waited outside his house. At the base, Daniel was escorted into a briefing room where Admiral Hale stood alone. No audience. No rank on display, just a man. "Sit," Hale said. Daniel did. "I told you yesterday that you weren't needed," the Admiral began. "That was intentional." Daniel frowned but stayed silent. "I've seen plenty of men who wear service like a costume," Hale continued. "They crumble the moment it costs them something. I needed to know if you were here for recognition, or for responsibility." Hale slid a file across the table. Inside were reports Daniel recognized: training failures, preventable mistakes, young sailors injured because someone didn't speak up or didn't know better. "These recruits don't need perfect bodies," Hale said quietly. "They need truth. They need someone who will teach them how to survive when plans fall apart." The Admiral looked Daniel directly in the eyes. Your reply yesterday reminded me why I joined. Not because you defended yourself, but because you spoke for someone else. Daniel swallowed hard. I'm offering you the position, Hale said. Lead instructor. On one condition. Daniel's heart pounded. Name it, sir. Don't ever forget why you're here. Daniel stood, emotion breaking through his disciplined exterior. I won't. Weeks later, Daniel stood before a new class of recruits. He didn't shout. He didn't posture. He told them stories, about mistakes, about fear, about responsibility. He taught them to think, to protect one another, to remember that service didn't end when the uniform came off. One afternoon, Admiral Hale observed quietly from the back. He watched as a young recruit struggled, ready to quit. Daniel knelt beside him and said, "You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be accountable." The recruit stayed. That night, Daniel came home early. Emma was waiting with a drawing, two stick figures holding hands in front of a ship. "That's you," she said. "And that's me. You help people." Daniel hugged her, tears finally allowed. Months later, Admiral Hale addressed a room full of officers. "We don't measure value by rank alone," he said. "We measure it by who stands up when told they're not needed." The room applauded. Daniel Mercer never asked for recognition. He just answered honestly when tested, and in doing so, he reminded everyone, especially his daughter, that true service isn't about being wanted. It's about being willing. End message. Sometimes the moment meant to dismiss you is the moment that defines you. Speak with purpose. Stand with integrity. And never underestimate the power of an honest reply.